How do we sell our offers online without having a massive audience? Is exactly what I want to be covering with you guys today. I have an awesome doc that I put together, a small brand sales playbook. For those of you guys that don't know who I am, I'm Nate. I've built a seven-figure business while having a relatively small audience compared to most people in my space. My business, I don't go viral regularly. Honestly, can't remember the last time I went viral. I'm not getting hundreds and thousands of leads a day. I'm not getting uh, you know, millions and millions and millions of customers, and yet my business has still averaged over $1,100 a day for the last 1,700 days in a row. So I am a little qualified to talk about this topic. I've also helped clients make millions of dollars in profits online. So now that we got the pleasantries out of the way, I will pull up this document. I'll break it down. My goal for you is to look at a little bit of a different perspective or lens around content creation and marketing, because a lot of the market really curates their strategies towards people who do go viral, who do have massive audiences and massive influence, and they're getting tons of volume. And us as little baby creators, so to speak. And honestly, I'll probably consider anything under like 50,000 followers somebody a baby creator. This could be also 1,000 followers, it could be 5,000 followers. We need to operate a little bit differently, because our goal is shouldn't necessarily be like mass, appeal or mass, virality, but instead creating as much depth as possible in our relationships with our smaller audience, so that way we can actually start selling some of our offers. Alrighty, so like the question we're potentially asking ourselves is like, how do we monetize a personal brand with under 5,000 followers? And this isn't an exhaustive list. Like if you have more than 5,000 followers, this will still apply to you. But the reason I use this number is like this is a relatively small audience, and some of my biggest clients to date have had big numbers from small followings, like 5,000 people. I'll never forget, I had a client who had 100,000 followers on TikTok, and I was working with them, and they ended up shutting down that TikTok account to start a brand new one. And then I helped them create an offer that ended up doing multi six figures online. And I don't think they ever even crossed 5,000 followers on that TikTok that they created. So audience size isn't necessarily a correlation to the amount of money that you're making. It is more about the intentions or the topics of the content. Now, obviously, if you're trying to be the next, Kim K, influencer, Mr. Beast, whatever, then yes, but that's a completely different scenario. And, obviously, you wouldn't be watching this video if that is you, right? Because I'm curating this towards somebody with a relatively smaller audience. Okay. So the real problem that most people don't talk about, most of the sales and marketing advice online is curated towards people with big audiences. Okay, 50,000 followers, 100,000 subscribers, millions of views. Okay, a lot of the market strategies work on volume. Not that they don't work, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like some of the strategies out there. Okay, there's tons of great options, tons of great educators, tons of great mentors out there. But realistically, if you're not getting a ton of volume, we can't necessarily play the same game as somebody who has 500,000 followers on Facebook, and they're getting hundreds of comments on everything they post. We can't operate the exact same way. And the biggest problem that I see a lot of creators falling into is they try to emulate, or they try to emulate those big creators, or maybe like model their content, and then they get buried because they're already picking up like the market share. Okay. Um, so and realistically, let's be real. You could go post the exact same piece of content. You could go post they can post a mediocre piece of content and they can get a ton of engagement on it. And you can go post the exact same thing and it does nothing for your business. Just because they have more influence, they have more relationships at scale, etc. Um, so you and I don't have that. Okay. I'm not saying that I go viral on everything I post. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, like I don't get a ton of activity on my content, but I've still been able to build a seven-figure business, and I've been full-time online for over 5 years, and I don't go viral regularly. Okay. A lot of my content has minimal engagement, minimal activity, yet I still sell offers just about daily. So, um, as I was mentioning, okay, we need to play a little bit of a different game compared to bigger creators. Okay, big audiences sell with volume. Small audiences need to sell with precision. We need to sell with depth. We need to sell with intention, not necessarily like mass market appeal. We really need to like think about how can we carve out our own unique authority in something specific, that's going to start contrasting you from other bigger creators. That's going to allow you to start eliminating competition and allowing you to become a market of one, and not necessarily like, you're trying to compete against the creator who has a 600,000 followers on Facebook, and you're trying to sell the exact same principles or the same concept or the same models as them, because you're just going to blend in, and more often than not they're going to pick up the majority of the share. Okay, so you're going to be left fighting for their scraps, so to speak. Okay, when you have 500,000 followers, even 5,000 followers, we can't afford to be vague. You can't afford to be generic. You can't afford to be kind of known for a lot of things. You need to be the person for one thing. You need to be the person that helps somebody solve a very specific problem. You help your potential customers or your clients, or you help people get to a very specific outcome. Okay. And we need to be calling that one person out or that one problem out a lot in our content and in our marketing. We need to, like, our job as marketers or people who want to potentially sell products and services online. Our job is to not do this in a bad way, but we really, really need to like apply continuous pressure onto that problem until we become the immediate solution. Okay. So we need to be the person for one thing in one corner of the internet for one specific type of person. And when I say one type of person, I don't mean, you know, I'm for anybody who like has blonde hair and wants to, look beautiful. Like that's not a specific enough pain. Now, unless you're like a hairdresser or something. But even then, it's like, hey, I help, unnatural blondes re-dye their roots in a three-step process. Very specific problem, very specific thing versus like, hey, if you have hair, I will cut it. Okay. What's going to make you different from other people in your niche or your space? Um, so another thing too, like why a smaller audience is actually an advantage, and this is something that gets overlooked a lot. And a lot of the bigger accounts won't tell you. Um, they'll tell you that you know you can't make sales without calls. That's you're not going to be able to make any money. This is also one of the biggest misconceptions for people outside of the business space. I get this a lot. It's like, oh well, you only have 30,000 followers. There's no way you're making money. Now, obviously, if I'm selling a $1 product to everybody in my audience, that's not very much money. But if I'm selling something a little bit more expensive, $100, $500, $1,000, it's not like it really starts to sway uh, that amount of money that you're making, the actual revenue you're potentially producing from your audience. Okay, um, small audience is going to give you the ability to create really deep relationships. People are actually going to read your stuff. People will remember your name. People feel like they know you, which is the ultimate goal in the online business building space. Um, People will trust you faster because the relationship feels real. Okay, so your biggest advantage being a small creator at the end of the day is the ability to ingrain some type of intimacy or personalization to your audience, because the bigger creators aren't going to do this. I hear this every day in the space that I play in, where it's like, hey, I commented on somebody's post and I never even heard back from them. I dropped a comment on the thing that I wanted from them, and my comment got buried in 600 other comments and I never even got a response. So your competitive advantage being somebody who is smaller and who isn't waking up to 6,000 notifications a day, you have the ability to actually like build that deep relationship, because you're going to help your audience feel seen and heard and understood and actually feel like they know you or you know them. Versus a big audience is not, they don't have the ability to do this because of sheer volume. Okay. um so a creator with 200,000 followers might get 3% engagement. That's 6,000 people interacting. Sounds great, but those 6,000 people don't know them personally. They're fans, not buyers. Okay, as an example, like I was just saying, you're not going to be able to keep up with some of the volume when you get bigger. So there's going to not be as much depth in some of those relationships. Now, obviously, over time, this will increase, right? If you watch my content every day for the next 6 months, and I have a big audience, yes, the relationships are going to get deeper and deeper. But I'm just trying to give you guys some like raw statistics, off the top. Okay. And realistically, kind of help you guys see the light at the end of the tunnel, because I know it's one of the biggest things where people get discouraged because they don't have a big audience. They don't have massive influence. They don't have all of the, like, they're comparing themselves to Sally, who's getting 100 comments on everything that they're getting. And then they're, comparing their own results to that person. Okay. So let's say you have 1,200 followers, 8% engagement. That's about 100 people who are locked in. who see your face every day, who you have an actual conversation with. Like I was saying, you have the ability to, personalize things to your audience and make them feel seen and heard, which then really starts to increase the chances of them purchasing. So they're not getting pumped through some type of impersonalized process or system that they don't really like enjoy, or even it just feels very impersonal. Okay. Now, obviously, if you have 200,000 followers, you have to do this because, like, if I have 6,000 people interacting on my content every day, I can't go talk to 6,000 people, right? So it's a necessary evil, but it is our competitive advantage if you don't have the massive um, volume. Okay. My honest opinion, you don't need a bigger audience. I've also said this a lot over the years. You don't need more followers, you need better followers. So that's kind of what I mean. We need a deeper audience, we need deeper relationships with our audience before we're ever trying to pitch. Okay, so the real game is pre-selling before you ever even make your offers. Here's where most people with smaller audiences blow it. They post content, they build a small following, and then one day they drop their offer and then they get crickets. Right? So let's, as an example, let's say I have 1,000 followers and I do all this content, and I very rarely talk about my offer. I post about my offer one time and then nobody buys, and I think it's broken. And they get crickets. It's a part of the game we potentially play. Uh, I mean, you can go look at big creators who get very minimal interaction on some of their content. You can go look at somebody with 600,000 followers on Facebook and they have 13 likes on their reel. So we also need to be aware that we're also comparing how things are going in our business to like metrics that don't even matter. It's like if they have all this big audience and they're not getting a ton of like interaction, why would you? Okay. Um, so most people pitch their product before you've pre-sold your audience on anything. So this is something that I do pretty differently in my business. I like to like be very open about price. I like to be very open about offers. Right, like right now, I run a $1,000 operating system where I help people turn communities into sales machines, and I'm not hiding the fact that I potentially have a product to sell or an offer to sell. Um, so a lot of the market likes to go from straight here's your problem to buy my thing, and that's a massive leap, and a lot of people won't make it. So especially with the smaller audience, it's our job to talk about as many different angles and pain points as we possibly can. I know I was saying this in the beginning of the video where we have this main pain point that we want and we're going to apply continuous pressure in it. But our job as a marketer, and especially a smaller marketer, is to talk about that same thing in as many different stories, lenses, or contexts as humanly possible. Because somebody in your audience might see one thing from you and then they see another post from you 6 days later. And it's like, okay, well, now that makes sense. And that's relevant to where I'm at. I'm going to have a conversation with them and see if their offer could help me. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys an analogy for this. So think of it like crossing a river. Your prospect is on one side of the river with their problem. Your solution is on the other side. There's nothing in the middle. They have to make one giant leap and most won't. Okay. Maybe 10% will jump into the water and start, crossing the ravine or the river, whatever we want to call it. The rest will stand on the bank and watch. But what if there was stepping stones in the water that led them across from their problem over to your solution? Okay, not one big ball, not one big boulder, that's 15 feet high, and they're expected to jump from the ground up 15 feet onto this boulder and then cross the river. But small series of clear steps they can walk across, little incremental steps, pieces of content, marketing, sound bites, etc., that lead them across the way in digestible steps. Okay, that's what pre-selling does. It builds a bridge before you ever even ask anybody to cross it. So that way, when a stranger comes across on my content or somebody in my audience comes across my content, there's a sequence of stuff that they can potentially go through that actually leads them to the sale instead of me just guessing. So let's talk a little bit about the 5 stones that closes the sales. I guess that's the term we're going to use today. These are the 5 things you need to pre-sell your audience on before you ever pitch your offer. Get all 5 right, and you'll see why 50 to 90% of people raise their hand who actually buy. Like we have had extremely high conversion rates on some of our offers because of this. Sales in my business is usually one of the easiest parts because I lean very heavy into this. There's no song and dance, there's no objections, there's no pressure. It's like a lot of the times, most of the people coming into my sales process know they already want to buy. how much it costs, that there's going to be work involved, etc. It's not me having to, twist their arm and make them do a bunch of yoga poses to get them to buy. They come to me already understanding what it is and realistically purchasing. So, and that, again, that's not because I pressure them. It's because they were already sold before you even asked. They were already sold on my process, my model, my plan, all of this other stuff before I asked them to raise their hand or I dove into some type of sales process with them. So, step number one, or stone number one, is the problem. Okay. And it's not necessarily like the problem that your audience is currently going through. Now, this also comes back to being clear on like your ideal client or potentially what transformation you're going to help your audience provide, or you're going to provide for your audience. Sorry. It comes down to being crystal clear on this. And your ideal client profile isn't, a who. It's a problem that somebody's in. It's a situation that somebody's in. It is a challenge or a hurdle that you have personally overcame in your own business. This is the biggest thing. Like my honest opinion for most people, most creators, most marketers, most people who want to sell offers online is you need to look at talking to somebody 6 to 12 months ago from where you are currently at right now. So all of the challenges and the problems and the things that you overcame over the last 6 to 12 months is what we need to be attacking inside of our marketing, because you know exactly what needs to be overcame to get to the transformation. Now, this will grow with you as your business grows. Like once upon a time, I was helping people make their first sale online. Now I could realistically help somebody who wants to take their own products to $1 million, because those are all things that I've done. Okay. So, and realistically, I would encourage you guys to like not think about surface level things in any of the stuff that I'm talking about with you guys today. The deeper you guys can go, the better off you're going to be. Okay. So not struggling to get clients, like that's a very bland, broad topic, but more like you're posting 5 times a day and getting likes from other coaches, but 0 different DMs from actual buyers. This is a very specific scenario curated to someone very specific. It's a very specific problem that you can help somebody fix. Like this is very broad right here. Like, and most people are gonna be like struggling to get clients. That's there's way too much room for interpretation. And a lot of bigger people with big audiences can do this, but we can't as smaller creators, as people with smaller audiences with less influence. Again, we need to start carving out authority in something very specific that's going to help our potential customers get a specific result. If you guys want a formula on this, a good framing for this would potentially be: I help you get to insert result while removing insert thing that they hate. Okay. I help you escape insert painful situation or problem that they're in by doing X plan and removing something that they don't enjoy. Okay? As an example, I help you make your first $10,000 profit online without having an audience of 50,000 people or worrying about going viral. Okay, as an example. So specificity is what's going to make people stop scrolling. It's going to be what creates these depths in the relationships with your audience. It's going to allow you to start becoming an authoritative figure in your micro audience or your nano audience, whatever you potentially want to call it. Our goal for our content and our marketing is to make our audience feel like we understand the problem that they are in better than they do. Right. And most of the time, you can only do this if you're speaking or teaching or providing something through lived experience, not something that you potentially made up. Okay. So you don't need a massive audience to speak someone's reality. You just need to know the person well enough to describe their Tuesday. Like I was mentioning, this is going to come back down to like a little bit of targeting the transformation or the problems that you help people solve. But the more specific you describe their problem, the more they believe you have the solution. This is a big one, right? And again, like don't try to curate this or solve problems that you haven't personally done, because you're going to run into more challenges than it's worth. You're going to run into a lot of imposter syndrome, limiting beliefs, all these other things that will happen in your business because we're trying to sell people on outcomes or things that we have not accomplished yet. Okay. Stone number 2 is your personality. Okay. I think this is also going to be one of the most important stones as AI gets better and better. Talk about the irony, because I'm reading this as I wrote, as I'm saying that as I'm reading a document that I used AI to help me create, right? People buy from people they like. That's not new. But that's what a lot of people get wrong about in the personality or the online game. They think it means being entertaining, funny videos, big energy, or lifestyle content. That's not necessary. I'm not saying you guys need to curate this fictitious version of yourself to make people online like you, right? Eventually, if you do this, you'll end up hating the business that you build because you'll end up attracting a ton of people who aren't like you. When I say your personality, I want you guys to think about like who you are beyond business. And again, this will be extremely uncomfortable in your content. It will, especially when you start doing it initially, it's going to be very uncomfortable. So I'm just going to be very clear with that. Uh, but the goal is to showcase who you are as an actual person, and this is going to be different for everybody. Are you, very analytical? Are you do you have inappropriate humor? Do you have a foul mouth? Do you have a different worldview than most people? Like, this is what is really going to round out your own ability to create a market of one is your own unique personality and your own unique story and context, because nobody has the ability to take that from you. Nobody has the ability to be you. Okay, but a lot of people don't ever like let this Pandora come out of the box. Okay, it's like, oh well, I have to be this, very curated version of myself online, and then they end up building an audience of people that don't really know them. And then if they end up doing any client work or customer work, you end up building like these relationships or these business relationships with people who are nothing like you, and then it kind of sucks. Okay, like fully embrace who you are and try to convey that in your content. Okay. Um, so you can talk about like this is more like the personal side. It doesn't necessarily have to be about business. Obviously, if you have any type of unique viewpoints in the market or the landscape, that's also something you could talk about. But your personality and who you are beyond business is going to build trust 10 times faster than like some dancing reel or trend. Like you sharing your story or a vulnerable moment, can't English, is going to give you the ability to build like deep relationships with your customers. Okay, this is going to be one of your biggest weapons, and I think it's probably going to be like key in the future as well, right? As AI gets better and there's this like blanket distrust of everything online, your personality is something that we really need to work on conveying. Um and I do know it is going to be uncomfortable. Okay, but it's a big one that a lot of people don't ever like, again, ever embrace because they're so terrified of what people are going to say or think or judgments, or maybe they're not going to be liked, and that's fine. Like if somebody doesn't like your personality or who you are, it's going to be a nightmare when they pay you anyways, because then like what usually happens is the relationship usually gets a little bit closer, the proximity gets a little bit closer. So then you're going to end up like working with a ton of people that maybe you offend or you're nothing alike, and then it sucks. So then it's going to be a bad customer experience, and then your customer results are going to diminish because they don't actually like who you are, and it's just all around makes for a bad business, and it all stems from this, right? So step 3 is your philosophy. Uh, there's a couple ways you guys can look at this. You can look at creating a common enemy as well. And I'm not telling anybody to go out there and attack people, but you can attack plans, you can attack processes, you can attack ways of doing things in business that you don't agree with. Uh, you also need to be crystal clear on the way that you believe business should be done and the what you actually do as like a plan and a mechanism and a process. um but this is something that we really need to think about, like what do you believe about business, life, and the way things should be done. uh we want to start using our content and our marketing to filter the right people as well as repel the wrong. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people at its core, but like we need to start working on pushing the people away that aren't like our tribe of folks away from us, so that way they don't even ever potentially even want to work with us anyways. Okay, the people who think like you lean in harder, the people that don't will lean away. Okay? And that's exactly what you want, like I was just saying. Okay, examples of philosophy, and this also could be like phrased as like creating a common enemy. I believe you can sell high ticket without phone calls. I believe busy is a design flaw, not a badge of honor. I believe one community beats 10 funnels every time. I believe business should serve your life, not the other way around. I genuinely believe that online business should, like, integrity and ethics and morals are not optional. I believe that you can build a six-figure business with less than 10,000 followers, as an example. Contrarian takes in your landscape. This will be a little bit of different depending on the niche or the industry that you're potentially playing in. I believe that you can still lose weight without counting calories and having a brownie every night, as an example. Okay. Um, okay. The philosophy is what's going to make people say, I need to follow this person before they ever see your offer. This is also going to allow you to start agitating problems that they're potentially having and then making your way look extremely sexy, right? So if I come into a piece of content and I talk about how I've closed about 5,000 deals online with products as much as $9,600 without taking a sales call in the last 4 years, somebody who's taking sales calls is going to be like, well, shit, I want to see what he's doing because I'm on sales calls every single day and I'm, spending 40 hours a week on Zoom. And I would like to, like, maybe not do that. Okay. So kind of back to that formula I mentioned earlier in this video, like, how do I help somebody get to a result while removing something that they hate? Okay. A little bit of contrarian polarization, all that jazz. Again, I want to preface, I'm not encouraging anybody to go out and attack individuals. That's not what I'm doing. That looks desperate, it looks bad, it looks needy. But you do need to have an actual stance and a line in the sand around what you do and what you don't do. And then we need to create philosophy in our content, our marketing, and all this stuff about how you do things differently from what is taught in the market, right? Or in your specific space, your landscape, etc. Okay. I show people how to get into golf without spending $1,500 on clubs. I show brand new moms lose the weight after having a baby without actually having to go to the gym or count calories or etc. I show moms a 15-minute workout routine to shed 20 pounds in the next 90 days in between naps with their brand new baby. Okay. Like, we need to start thinking about contrarian takes of what is taught in your mass market and how we can create a difference between you and them. Okay, creating common enemy. I think Coca-Cola and Pepsi is a good example of this. Okay, or you can look at Liquid Death is a really, really beautiful branding play on this as an example. It's like if we look at all of these other water companies, they all have like bright blue bottles and clear bottles and Aquaphor, the water of life, and all these other things. And then you have like a genius branding marketer who comes in is like, well, let's name our water about death and let's put skulls on them and let's make it black and dark and make it like grungy. And it's just this like completely breath of fresh air in a space that it's completely contrarian because you have the only thing that we need to stay alive, and now it's labeled as death, as an example, right? Creating a stance in the market. And I mean, don't take my word for it. Go look at like Liquid Death stocks. Look how big their company got over the years. Like, it's a genius play, but it's a good example of like polarization and brand, polarization in marketing, creating a stance. Not that the water's potentially any different, or like you're actually going to die if you drink the liquid, but it's a good example. Okay. Stone 4 is your plan. Never pitch your product or prospect until someone is sold on the plan. This is a big one. If you only pre-sell on one thing, so if you skip any other things, and this wouldn't encourage you to, but if you want to skip any other stones and build that 15-foot stone in the middle of your river, then you can do this one. It won't be as effective as possible, but this is probably one of the most important ones, and that's your plan. Okay, this is how you do things and how you help people solve their specific problem, not the product. Okay, for any of you guys watching this video, this is the one mistake that I see a lot of creators making when they're trying to sell their offers and services online, is when I talk about plan or I talk about you selling your plan, you think that I'm talking about product. Your product isn't the plan. The thing you are selling is not like the plan. Like my community conversion operating system isn't my plan. It's a product name. That's a product. Okay. It doesn't matter. Again, all of us in this room don't have big enough brands. If I go, hey, this is the name of my product, nobody gives a shit about the name of your product. They don't care. They don't care about how many lessons are in it, or how many modules are in it, or how many videos are in it, or how many templates are in this thing. They want to know if it is going to help them solve their problem and help them get to the transformation. Okay. Now I'm going to give you an example of like what this looks like in practice. Um, a lot of people in my space sell courses, coaching, consulting, using webinars, funnels, automated checkouts, calls, high pressure launches. My plan's different. Step one, create targeted content that brings the right people into my free community. Step two, build relationships inside of that community through valuable content and conversations. Step number three, I invite them to buy with a simple Google document after they've consumed some content in my community. Okay, that's the plan. Short form video to community, community to conversations, conversations to sales. Okay, so when I say you need to pre sell people on your plan, you need to talk about what are the actual steps that your customers are going to be required to take to get to the result that you want to help them get to. Or what are the steps they're going to have to take to remove the painful problem that you picked or you have that you're removing from their business or life. That is the plan. The plan isn't your offer, the plan isn't your product. It is the actual steps that they're going to have to take. Okay. This is going to make your sales really easy. I'll never forget a conversation I had with somebody a few years ago. And they sent me a message and said, "Hey, I don't have to buy your offer. I figured out what you were doing." And I literally sent him a voice clip and I was kind of laughing because I was like, you could have just asked me, but you could have read any piece of content that I put out realistically because I'm not hiding the fact of like what I do. I don't talk about like it's not a secret. Like instead of trying to figure out, you literally could have just asked me. I would have told you. This is also going to help when you sell customers on stuff because they come in understanding what they're already going to have to do. So it's not like you're trying to dupe them into buying a process, a course, a coaching offer, and they come in and they're like, "Oh, well, I bought this $1,000 coaching program from you, and like you never talked about having to create content, and now I'm just understanding that I have to like create content or do something." Right? Like it's going to make your life a whole lot easier getting your customers results or getting your clients results or whatever it is if they come in already understanding the level of requirements or commitments that's going to be like required to get the transformation. Okay? So, right, when somebody understands and believes in the plan, they're already halfway across the river. The product itself is just the vehicle that delivers the plan. Okay, pre-sell the plan in your content as much as you possibly can. Talk about it regularly. Show how it works. Share wins. Show people who followed it. Um, when you do this, it's going to really start to sway the conversion rates of the people in your audience because they already believe in the plan. Especially if you mix these in with any of the other stones that I'm talking about, it's going to work really well. Right? If they believe in you and they have a level of trust with you, they're clear on the painful situation that they're potentially in, and then you show them a plan of how to fix that actual pain that they're in. It just becomes this like series of steps or stones that they can take to help you to pay you to get their solution. Okay. Uh, if any of you guys want to roast me in the comments of how many times I've said K in this video already, go ahead and do that because apparently that's my favorite K, like a little Valley girl K. Um, stone number 5 is your price. This is the stone most people skip entirely, or they're scared to talk about it because some mentors will say, never talk about price, never talk about your offer price. They hide the price until the end and then they drop it like a bomb. And then they wonder why nobody buys or why their audience potentially hesitates. It's like we have this build up and this build up and this build up. Let's say I'm doing like a webinar and I have this build up and then all of a sudden I'm like, at the end I'm dropping a $1,000 offer and it's like, oh, well, I thought this was a free training and then you're gonna get a ton of resistance versus like, hey, at the beginning of this video, if I'm like, hey, full transparency, we have an offer that's $1,000 and we're gonna like ultimately we would love to have you in at the end of this webinar. No pressure either way. You're still gonna get a ton of value from this webinar today. But I just want to be honest. This is the goal for this webinar is to help you understand how we can help you inside of our product and service. Like right in the beginning. So then everybody that stays isn't necessarily like scared of the $1,000. Okay. And a lot of people don't like to talk about the price. This was a really popular one with a program that was around many years ago at this point where it was like a value ladder offer and nobody ever talked about the bigger ticket offer that was getting mentioned. So then you had a ton of people that were going through it who would get pissed off because everybody was like terrified to talk about this $2,500 program that was in the middle. So then everybody was like scared and they would never talk about it. So then it was like then you had all this level of distrust that was happening simply because nobody wanted to talk about the expensive product. Now, another tactic you guys can also use is if you have multiple offers, you can talk about your most expensive thing, or you can anchor it in your content without like even pitching. I've done it multiple times in this video. It's like, hey, I run a community conversion operating system, which is our, entire operating system refined over 7 years in business and done millions of dollars in results online, and it's $1,000. Like that's an offer that we run. I run 2 weeks, 2 days a week of coaching calls with clients who've paid me $1,000 at a minimum. One of the bonuses you get 800 customers have paid $1,000 to have access to. These are all different ways that I'm anchoring in price without even pitching you. I'm just talking about things that I'm doing in my business, things that I've sold in my business, and I'm anchoring in a product price. Actually, like just normalizing me talking about a potential product. Okay. When you pre-sell price early, two things happen: people can't afford it, or aren't serious, filter themselves out, or they get upset, or they you repel them, and that's fine. Like if somebody's mad at me about talking about the price of my offer, they're probably never going to purchase anyways. Okay. People who stay are mentally committed to the number. By the time you pitch, the price isn't a surprise; it's expected, right? So if you come into my free community and I have an offer pinned at the post and it says, "Hey, uh, full transparency, my goal for you coming into my free community is to get you to the point where you're comfortable investing in this program with me, so I can help you get to your first $100,000 profit online." The program's $1,000. Like you can give the page a read here. Obviously, no pressure to buy right now, but that's the reason that this community exists. So it's not even me pitching. It's just like setting the scene a little bit, letting them know, like, hey, this is the goal for this group. This is the goal for my ecosystem, is to get you the point that you can become a customer so I can work with you inside of this offer. So then what ends up happening is now it changes the entire experience for that community member, because they come in and now instead of like, okay, I'm just here to consume and binge all this free stuff. Now they're coming in and their expectations are like, okay, well now I'm looking at this from like, okay, I'm learning this thing so that way I can get to the point of like actually buying this product that I already know exists. It's not like me coming in and saying, hey, you're going to come into my group and you're never going to have to buy a single thing. And then they're like, and then I try to pitch them and they're like, well, you said I could get everything for free. It's like, no, hey, this is what it is, right? Okay. Give them time to chew on the price. Again, you don't have to like shove it down their throat. They're like, hey, if you don't buy my program right now, you're not serious. We just want to start anchoring price. We want to talk about it openly, right? You can talk about it casually as well. It doesn't have to be an aggressive thing. It would just be like little tweaks in your content. Like, hey, this is one thing that I picked up from $1,000 investment I made in my own business. Hey, this is the number one thing that I gave to a client who paid me $5,000 to help them do X, Y, Z. That's not me pitching you. That's me framing that I do have things to sell and making it crystal clear. Right. So you're then it's like, oh shit, Nate has clients who pay him $5,000 and he's giving me this lesson for free. It's not only increasing the perceived value of the free information I'm giving them, but it's also anchoring a price. Okay. Right. You can also anchor it against alternatives. This is very popular with you can also anchor that this is very popular with like SaaS software companies, etc. The other thing you can also look at is like the cost of them not investing in it, right? The cost of them not making a decision on your product or potentially moving forward in your offers or anything like that. That's also another thing you can mention. You can also contrast it to different alternatives or things that you'll be removing inside of their business. It's like, hey, you can join my coaching program, which is $1,000 a year, which will show you how to remove A, B, and C from your business, which will actually probably end up saving you, $1,900 a year. So you're actually saving $900 to come buy this program from me instead of actually, spending $1,000 as an example. Okay. When all 5 stones are in place, your sales go through the roof and you'll actually start converting higher percentages of your audience and not necessarily having to chase as much vanity metrics. Okay. And that's because the sale was already made before you even asked. Now that we got those 5 stones of pre-selling out of the way, I want to start giving you guys a little bit more tactical tips. Tactical. Just getting weird. Showcasing my personality as an example. Now, if I was really showing my personality, I'd be making inappropriate jokes or wearing some type of romper. So how does this actually play out on a smaller brand? Okay. So your content has to do double duty. Okay. So every post needs to serve at least one of these 5 stones. And again, you can cover all 5 in a single piece of content as well. Problem, personality, philosophy, plan, price. Okay. If it doesn't pre-sell one of these, it's not doing its job. Now, I'm not saying you can't have filler content. You can't do, fun stuff every once in a while, but it can't be the bulk of your content. A good ratio for this is like if I'm doing, let's say 10 posts a week, 8 of my pieces of content per week would want to be on one of these pillars, on one of these stones, or one of the P's of pre-selling. Okay. Not necessarily like all jokes and humor and nothing to do with the transformation or the pain that I hope people solve. And then like at the end of the week, I'm like, hey, come buy my program, because there's no congruency there, which a lot of creators do. It's like I create all this content that has nothing to do with my business, and then I wonder why nobody's buying. Right? Or I only create content about my interests, my passions, my hobbies, and then I try to sell them on something that's not congruent. This might work if you have a big audience and you have big influence, but again, if you're watching this video, you probably don't. So we need to play a little bit of a different game. So we need to create narrow content. Stop trying to talk to everybody about everything in your niche. Pick a corner or a lane and stay there. So I'm going to give you examples of a couple different topics. So like a broad topic would be how to grow your business. Focused would be like how to close 1K sales with a Google document instead of sales calls. Too broad would be, marketing tips for coaches. Why your group isn't converting coaching clients, and here's the one fix. Content creation strategies, the 3 types of posts that pre-sell your offers daily. Okay. The 3 types of content that every creator under 5,000 followers needs to create if they actually want to make money online. Broad, how to get more clients. How I got 10 coaching clients from 800 followers and not a single viral video. Okay, mindset for entrepreneurs. Why busy is a design flaw, not discipline. Okay, this could also be even sexier. The difference is left column could be anyone. The right column could only be you. Okay, so that's what we want to like look at our content and our marketing in our business is we want to like pretend we're talking to one person, one problem, one circumstance, and one situation, and not like mass market appeal. I help anybody who wants to make money online. Like that's not going to hit. That's not you're going to get buried in a sea of people doing the exact same thing. Okay? That's our goal should be go narrow and deep into something very specific, and then let that specificity start doing the selling for you. Okay? Again, we want our audience to start seeing our content and our videos and our written posts and being like, oh shit, they understand where I am at better than I do. That is the goal for your content. Okay. So I'm going to break down some formats that actually sell. Not all content formats are created equal. If you have if you have a smaller audience, some are designed for reach, others are designed for trust. You need both, but the ratio matters, right? We can't just do a ton of depth content, otherwise we're not going to grow. So we have to have a healthy balance of some growth content, some top of funnel is what some people would call it, as well as some depth, things that create trust. And again, all of these formats can be used with one of the 5 stones or all 5 of the stones that I was talking about earlier inside of this video. So we have format number 1, we have belief shifting content. This is probably one of the most powerful ones that you can use. So this is a post that challenges something that your audience currently believes and replaces it with something better. I'll give you a few examples. I used to think I needed 10,000 followers to make real money online. Then I closed my first 5K month with 847 followers and a free Facebook group. It's not about reach, it's about depth. It's about me reframing a belief that they have about my industry or my niche and then showing them my plan instead. Okay, so this stone pre-sells on philosophy plus plan. So 2 different stones. Format Format two, sorry. The process post. Show them a slice of how you do things, not the whole system, one piece. You can do the whole thing, or you could do one piece, one part. You could do three parts, right? Like get as creative as possible. You're only limited to your own creativity with these. Again, content creation is going to be all about testing things as well. So here's an example for you. Here's exactly how I turned a group post into a sales conversation that led to a $5,000 sale. Step one, post something inside of my group that creates a micro win for the reader. Step two, watch who comments. Those are the warm leads. Step three, DM them with a genuine question, not a pitch. So this will be like a piece of content where I'm breaking down an actual sales flow of something that happens in my group. Done this a lot. I turn them into videos, turn them into written posts, turn them into lead magnets. Okay. This stone pre-sales plan plus personality. Okay. Anti-plan format number 3. Anti-plan post. Talk about what you don't do and why. This is one of the most powerful formats for small brands because it positions you as different, like I've talked about today, like creating that contrarian approach, creating that enemy, creating that common enemy against something else. A couple examples. So 5 things I removed from my business that actually made me more money: sales calls, daily lives, multiple groups, complex funnels, and posting on 5 platforms. Replaced all with one group, one offer, and simple conversations. Okay. Stone this pre-sales on philosophy, plan, and problem. Okay. Format number 4, client result post. Share a win, but don't make it about money. Make it about what changed in their day to day. You can also use community results, because I know some of you guys might be like, hey, I don't have any results of my own. You can use the results that are happening inside of the community that you're a part of. If you're in like a digital marketing program or whatever it potentially is, you can use things that are happening inside of there. Don't claim they're your own, but like, hey, I'm a part of this community that just helped so-and-so do XYZ. Okay. Give you an example. Sarah had 1,100 followers, no funnel, no email list. She used one piece of content to fill her group, then ran one workshop inside that group. 11 people enrolled in her $997 program. No calls. That's not a hack. That's the system that I help people teach. Okay. And I could even make this even better. It's like, hey, Sarah joined my $1,000 offer, and this is how I made her make her investment back in, the first 30 days of joining, as an example. And then that would pre-sell on the plan and the price, right? Not only anchoring the product price of potentially what Sarah sold, but also I could frame it as, hey, Sarah bought this 1K offer from me, and then this is the plan that I gave her, and this is the result that she got. Okay, so that's an example of a plan and price stone. Then we have format number 5, identity post, who you are, content, series, value, real moments, motivational fluff, actual pieces of your life that let people know what you're about. Example, I was driving DoorDash and investing 15K in a mastermind. Everyone thought I was crazy, but I knew staying comfortable was the most expensive, more expensive than being scared. That bet paid for itself in 90 days. And this is a bit of a real story. Like, I remember when I paid $1,500 a month for 10 months for a mastermind, and I was terrified. And that was like a pinnacle moment for me in business, because it changed the way I showed up. Like, because I had this big emotional attachment to that amount of money, because I come from like minimum wage background, and I was terrified to like, lose that amount of money. So I showed up in a completely different way than I ever have previously, because that was a big investment for me. So this pre-sale is a little bit more on personality and philosophy. Okay. Again, this isn't an exhaustive list. I just wanted to give you guys some examples of formats. And I'll give you guys a daily rhythm as well. You don't need to post 5 times a day. You don't need to be on every platform. Here's what actually moves the needle more when you're under 5,000 followers. Post one piece of content per day that pre-sells one of the 5 stones or multiples. Engage with every comment. Start conversations. Be human. Like, literally, that is your number one advantage against bigger creators, is that you have the ability to be personalized. Post inside your community. Share value. Create micro wins for members if you're running a community. If not, you can also just do this in your content. I use community as the main mechanism for my business, and I know some people don't. Again, you can just replace this with, like, now I post 2 pieces of content on my profile, and I share a win, and then I do one pre-selling stone in my content, right? Outreach, DM 3 to 5 people who've engaged in your content, not pitching, just talking. Invite people who are already into an offer using a doc, not a call. This is the number one metric you guys can track in your business. How many times have I asked somebody to buy my product? And this will increase your sales. This is the number one metric I look at with all my coaching clients. Is like they come to me, we get on a call. It's like, hey, I want to be making $10,000 a month, and then I ask them, well, how many offers have you made in the last 30 days? And a lot of the times, like, oh, I've asked 3 people to buy my product. It's like, well, then your product's $500. You like best case scenario, if you had 100% conversion rates, you could have only made $1,500, and that's nowhere near 10K. So we need to increase that number, right? So track the number of times you've asked people to buy your product is probably one of the main metrics that you guys can track. Okay. That's it. One post, real conversations, community value, few DMs, invitations when it's time. Okay. If you guys want a whole DM manual and a manual around actually how I convert in the DMs, there's a free resource inside of my group that you guys can grab. Now this is more curated to my own business model. Content to community, community to conversations, conversations to sales, one straight line. So this also gives the ability for me to look at what's breaking in my business. So like if nobody's coming into my group, there's a problem in my content. If nobody's coming into my DMs, there's probably something happening inside my community, or it could be the messaging that I'm using in my content that is kind of off, right? And then if I have people coming into my conversations and nobody's buying, this could be a problem in one of these over here. But more often than not, what actually happens is like the depth of the relationship is usually going to be the biggest thing. And this happens a lot where, so let's say somebody joined my group yesterday and then I send them $1,000 offer today. They're probably not going to buy or be ready to buy unless they've been consuming a ton of content from me previously. Right. So we got to remember that conversations aren't linear. They're not black and white. They're not like every sales process is going to go exactly the same. They're all individual humans. So we need to kind of like either speed up or slow down depending on the relationship with the customer or the prospect. Okay. What changes at each audience size? The game shifts as you grow. Here's what to focus on at each stage. 0 to 500 followers, go heavy on personality and philosophy content. People need to know who you are at first. Help individuals directly, like be very personalized in this stage. Don't worry about reach, worry about depth. Your sales will come from conversations, not content. The content just starts the conversation. Like if any of you guys have a small audience and you want to make sales, I would literally go talk to people. And I'm not saying to go pitch them and send them a DM like, hey, do you want to buy my program? No, like literally just go talk to some people, start some chats. Hey, I saw you liked my post the other day, and I just wanted to shoot you a message and say I appreciate you. Like, are you doing something similar, or go look at what they're doing and stroke their ego and compliment them on what they're doing. Okay, like just be a human, like be social on social media. Crazy concept, right? 500 to 1,000 or to 2,000 followers, start layering and plan content. Show the process, share how things work. Run a simple workshop inside of your community, even for 10 people, that's enough. Pre-sell the price by referencing what things cost, anchor against alternatives. This is where compounding starts. Content from 3 months ago is still doing the work. 2,000 to 5,000 followers, you have enough warm bodies to run consistent offers, monthly or bi-weekly invitations. What I mean by that is like public or potential like little mini launches or campaigns. Start repeating your best content in different formats. What worked as text posts become video, vice versa. Okay. Go heavier on client results and proof. Your audience is getting larger and larger, and new people need social proof. Okay. The system should start to feel calm now. If it doesn't, something in the structure is off. Right. So this is just a few different buckets. Obviously, this isn't an exhaustive list, but I wanted to give you guys some like things to pay attention to. 3 biggest mistakes that I see a lot of smaller brands make, small creators such as myself make. Mistake 1, playing the big brand game, trying to go viral, posting on 5 platforms, creating content for reach instead of trust, copying creators who have 100x your audience size and wondering why it's not working. Their game is volume, your game is precision. Stop playing their game. Now, I'm not saying you can't post on multiple platforms, but I would honestly pick one that you want to like get your data from, right? So what will happen is like, let's say I'm creating content on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and I'm trying to grow on Instagram, and then I look at the analytics on Facebook, so I change my content, and then it stops performing on Instagram, and it just creates like this whole mess of stuff. So I'd pick one main platform of preference that you potentially want to grow on, and then we actually like use the data from that platform. And if we're going to repurpose elsewhere, it's fine. But we're not actually like tweaking or changing the content based on that platform. Okay. Mistake number two: they skip the pre-selling. They look at like their product as the plan. Their product is the reason people are buying, and the clout of the offer is why people are buying, which isn't as much of a thing. It was in the past, but it's very hard to do nowadays because there is so many different options for people that the brand needs to really be dialed, and the content needs to be dialed for you to actually make sales. Okay. Um, and then it's like posting value content for 2 months and giving away absolutely everything and telling people that they're never going to have to buy anything from you, and then you drop an offer out of nowhere, and your audience has no idea that you even sell products. Okay. So we need to, like, every week our content should be building this bridge, right? We need to start thinking about your content that compounds over time, that works on getting people across this river. Okay. Mistake number three is trying to appeal to everyone. People are afraid because, like, if they're not broad, it's going to limit their audience and their reach. Um, and it's actually probably hurting your business more than anything, especially when it comes to getting results. Because the most impactful thing that you can do as somebody with a smaller audience or who wants those first initial results online is to go get a couple of customers and get some confidence and get some proof of concept. And then you can turn around and start creating your marketing to be better because now you have proof of concept, marketing frameworks, flows, etc. But the goal should be go very narrow and deep in the beginning, and you can broaden as your brand grows. You can start covering adjacent pillars, adjacent problems, adjacent topics. We can't start that way. Okay. Okay. Specificity is your unfair advantage of a small brand. Use it. Your actions, define your plan, write down in 3 sentences or less. How do you help people get from problem to solution? Keep it simple, that a 10-year-old, so simple that a 10-year-old could follow it. Lock in your philosophy. Write 3 beliefs you hold on to about your niche that go against mainstream advice. These become your recurring content themes. Narrow your who. Stop talking to coaches or entrepreneurs. Describe your exact person. What are they doing every day? What are they frustrated at? How do they feel? What's keeping them up at night? What have they already tried? What does their actual day to day look like? Okay, this is a big one. This is your ICP, and I'm not saying like your ideal client isn't it isn't necessarily a who, which I know sounds backwards because this does say who on it, but it is a problem that that person is in, right? What are they doing? Audit your content. Look at your last post. How many of them pre-sell one of the 5 stones? If the answer is less than half, then you know what to fix. Okay. And then number 5, start a rhythm. Start using a daily rhythm. One post, one valuable tip, real conversations, invitations when people are ready. If you're doing 5 posts a week, I would say one of those pieces of content need to be about an offer. You can't have everything be about a pitch either. It needs to be like a little bit of a rotation. If you could essentially do one of these 5 stones 5 days a week, and you would be pretty good to go. Let's see. You don't need 50,000 followers to make consistent money from a personal brand. I don't even have a platform of 50,000 followers. And again, I have built a 7-figure business, help clients make millions of dollars in profits online. You need one clear plan, one specific message. You need one community where people feel seen, and content that pre-sells your offer every single day without pitching or pressure, without pretending to be bigger than you are. The math is actually in your favor, especially if you have something that's a little bit more aggressively priced, like 10 sales at $500 to 1,000 beats 186 sales at 27 every day of the week. Okay. So 10 sales from warm, engaged, pre-sold to an audience of 1,000 people. That's not fantasy. That's Tuesday. Again, like I mentioned, we've had people build multi-6-figure brands with less than 5,000 followers. So I'm not giving you guys this through speculation. Okay. Small audiences, big trust, calm sales. That's the playbook. Okay. If you want help installing our entire operating system into your business, hit the link at the bottom of this document. Join our free school group, and maybe I'll see you inside. If not, hopefully you got some value from this video. I know I did ramble. This is a monster of a document, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.